Am I the jerk for peeing in the cat tray? I'm a 29-year-old female and my partner is a 25-year-old male. We've been dating for 3 years and we have lived together for one of those years. We live in a small one-bedroom flat that has one bathroom with our 2 cats. I'm a diabetic and I am on a number of medications. One of them basically flushes sugar straight through my system, so it can make me pee a lot. I can go from not feeling like I need to pee to if I don't pee in the next 20 minutes, I will pee myself. It comes on suddenly sometimes. My boyfriend has IBS and he can spend 40 minutes in the bathroom easily sometimes. IBS, if you don't know, is irritable bowel syndrome. So this hasn't been a problem thus far. Today though, he had a bad IBS moment and after about 40 minutes locked in the bathroom, I felt that I needed to pee. I figured he wouldn't be very long since he'd already been there for 40 minutes. I knocked on the door and let him know I needed to pee and asked how long he'd be. He said he'd be a few minutes. No problem. 20 minutes later, so in total he's been there an hour at this point, I'm kind of done doing the potty dance a little and knock on the door again. He's going to be a few more minutes. I tell him I'm not going to be able to hold him much longer and if he could just unlock the door and I'll just hop in the shower. Finally, he says he can't get off the toilet right now. Fair enough. Another 15 minutes and my bladder is starting to hurt and he hasn't flushed or anything. I figure, you know what? My bladder hurts and I'm bursting. I figured the cats would forgive me. We have 2 litter trays, one in the bathroom and one in a nook in the corridor. I pop a squat over the litter tray in the corridor and have a tinkle and use a kitchen towel to wipe. I then bag up the litter tray and completely refresh it. He comes out another 10 minutes later and says that the bathroom is free and I tell him it's fine. He gives me a funny look and I tell him what I did. He looks at me absolutely disgusted and says that it's revolting. I tell him I'd rather just refresh the litter tray, which takes seconds, than piss myself and have to do a ton of washing. He hasn't spoken to me all evening and he says that he can't believe I would do something so gross. I tried to tell him a number of times I really needed to go and he said that I should learn to hold it better. This has kind of left me feeling like I'm the jerk. So, am I the jerk? For that last part, I mean, come on. He said that I should learn to hold it better. Somebody who is suffering with irritable bowel syndrome or any type of digestive issue or anything that has to do with the bathroom at all should know that there are situations, especially when you're dealing with medications that are out of your control, that you can't just learn to do something better. You can't learn to hold it better if this is not even a natural thing that's occurring. She's taking medication in order to flush all the sugars from her system. That just seems like a ridiculous thing to say to someone after you've been on the toilet for over an hour. I mean, maybe you guys think this is so absolutely disgusting. You can't even imagine that somebody would do this, but I mean, it doesn't seem that bad to me. She just squatted over a litter box and did it. It sounds like she didn't like squirt it all over the carpet or the walls or anything. She just did what she had to do and even refreshed the entire litter tray before he came out. So I think he's also being a little bit dramatic in terms of how disgusting this is. I mean, both of them obviously have their own issues they have to deal with, and it doesn't sound like she minds at all the fact that he has to use the bathroom for long periods of time, so he shouldn't mind whatever she has to do in order to fix her situation. But let me know what you think and what you would do in this situation. Jerk or not a jerk, and why? Am I the jerk for calling my wife's friend who dumped off our cat in the woods an idiot and telling her she shouldn't even have kids? My wife and I recently had to relocate quickly due to a major family loss and had to find fosters for our 3 cats until our house was ready to move in. However, we did have a cat we were in the process of rehoming. A friend of my wife's offered to take her to the Humane Society for us since I am having a major surgery this week and my wife is moving our entire house on her own while I was working out my last few weeks until my surgery at work. Basically, we trusted this friend to take our cat. We had been trying to rehome. She was rescued and it was never intended to be permanent, and she dumped her in the middle of the woods somewhere. Then she told me she felt like she was neglecting the cat because she kept her in a carrier for 2 days. After she told us she'd be taking her in the morning once she picked her up from us, I told her she was an absolute idiot who didn't need to own animals or have kids, she's pregnant, if she could willingly dump an animal, this cat who had lived most of their life inside and never experienced the elements. I told my wife she needs to cut her off and never speak to her again because she won't even tell us exactly where they left the cat, in the woods. I was told by the friend's brother and sister-in-law that I was overreacting and she was a cat with claws and she would be fine. 2 of my other friends told me I went too far far calling her an idiot and saying she shouldn't even be having kids, let alone owning animals. Am I the jerk for saying what I said and telling my wife she can't be her friend anymore? My wife is also very upset. People that can do this to animals and just be okay with it have something seriously wrong with them. I mean, this is a domesticated cat in the woods. You're basically just serving up this cat as a meal for any animals that are bigger than it that live in these woods. The fact that the cat has claws does not mean that it knows how to survive when its entire life it's been indoors, living in a comfy little litter box and in a room full of cat toys and around humans. This is just sad. I mean, maybe somebody could make an argument that this cat might survive, but I mean, this cat's gonna be going through a pretty horrible adaptation period if it does survive. And the sad part is that why wouldn't this lady tell them where the cat was? Because at least the OP could go into the woods and try and find the cat and help it before it gets hunted down by another animal. I think any sane person would probably lose their temper in a situation like this, where you're in a very vulnerable spot, moving and having surgery. You ask somebody to do something for you that's important, and whether or not it was a permanent stay cat or not, it's still a living creature that you are providing care for. So what would you do if you're in this situation? And is the OP a jerk or not for calling his wife's friend an idiot for dumping the cat in the woods and saying that she shouldn't even have kids? Am I the jerk for yelling at my husband for throwing out all of my diet food? I'm a 29-year-old female and I've struggled with weight my entire life. I weighed over 200 pounds when I graduated high school and it went up during college. I did not grow up in the best family life. My parents worked crazy hours and the only food they could feed my brother and I was just junk food and fast food. After I graduated college, I decided to join a gym and eat healthier. I lost most of the weight that I gained throughout the years and I planned on keeping it off. One of my friends suggested a diet plan that provides breakfast, lunch, and dinner meals that are portion sized. There are also snacks and desserts that are provided. The meals come frozen, but once heated up, they are absolutely delicious. The plan is not cheap, but I do feel that a structured diet is best for me. When we go out to eat, I do order a meal that I enjoy. My husband tried one of the dinner meals and found it to be disgusting. He thinks that I am wasting money on the food and could save money by purchasing meals from the store. I come home on the evening after work and saw all my meals opened in the garbage bin. When my husband came home, I started yelling at him that he should not have thrown away good food. He looks at me and says, "I did a good thing for you. Now you can start eating regular non-processed foods." He thinks I should not have reacted the way that I did and was only trying to help save me money. Am I the jerk for yelling at my husband and throwing out all of my diet food? He was trying to help her save money by throwing away food that was totally good food. It wasn't expired. It was just processed, I guess. I mean, every time they eat out, that is probably processed food as well. And it seems like this whole prepackaged food plan is working for her. I mean, if she's been dealing with these weight problems for this long and it's that important to her to have it figured out, it sounds like this is the solution she wants to stick with. And even if she does slowly, little by little, adapt to non-processed food, she is relying on this to help her through that. And that makes no sense at all why he would throw away perfectly good food just because he thinks it doesn't taste good. And I guess because it's expensive as well. But the expensive part doesn't make sense if you're throwing away food, because expensive food that you can eat is still better than food in the garbage can. As a lot of people have pointed out, this sounds very controlling. I mean, she's just trying to do what she can to try and be a little bit healthier, even if it is the more expensive path. I mean, your health is usually worth almost anything. But let me know what you would do if you're in this situation, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for using my husband's savings to repurchase the bike that he took from our daughter? My daughter received a bike from her uncle, my brother, on her 11th birthday. She was over the moon and excited to use it because it was on her wish list for so long. Days ago, I discovered that my husband reached out to my brother to ask for the receipt to the bike and returned it to the store and kept the money for himself while my daughter was at school. The bike was at home. My daughter and I got home and she started crying after she noticed the bike was gone. My husband was home at the time. He told me he returned the bike and got money in return to spend on something useful for us since the bike was just there as a distraction. again. And there was no need for it now since we're in the dead of winter. I was aggravated and I lost it on him, saying it wasn't his. It didn't come from him. He didn't pay for it, so he had no right to touch it, especially knowing our daughter's been wanting it for a long time. And my brother was decent enough to buy it for her despite barely having any money to get by himself. I told him what he did was theft and insisted he handed the money over to me so I could repurchase it. But he said he spent it on stuff for the house and doesn't have any money left now, but I knew about the money he was stashing away in the bedroom that he forbade me from touching. And I took some of it and went out to repurchase the bike while he was out the next day. He found out and verbally lashed out at me, saying I should have never touched the money he was saving for himself, which isn't much, but I lashed right back that I had to so I could repurchase the bike he took from our daughter. He explained that he didn't keep the money for himself and instead spent it for necessities for our home, but he was at fault for taking the bike in the first place and he was responsible for getting it back. He yelled at me for almost 10 minutes and then stormed outside and started smoking. My daughter asked why her dad was upset and that she no longer wants the bike if dad doesn't want her to have it, but I assured her that's not the case and told her that she shouldn't feel guilty and to just focus on enjoying her bike. My husband hasn't stopped grilling me about how I disrespected and undermined him and managed to make our daughter hate him after making him look like the bad guy. I again said he shouldn't have touched the bike. End of story. He called me a thief and juvenile for taking money from his savings and being sneaky about it. So, am I the jerk for getting back the bike the way that I did? So clearly there are some financial issues in this household that are going on. And I thought maybe at first the dad just realizes how totally broke they are and they need the money from this bike in order to get by. But the fact that he did it so sneakily is wrong. If it was really that bad and they really needed money in order to just get through the next couple days, he probably should have talked about it with the wife and the daughter, because the daughter is the one who's going to have the emotional blowback from this whole thing. But he does have a little bit of money. The weird part is that he's saying he's spending it for himself. So he sells the bike to spend money on the house for the family, but the money that's saved is just for him. And then he smokes, which obviously, if you have a smoking addiction, that's going to be hard no matter what. But smoking is really expensive. I mean, it seems like the brother was just trying to do a good thing. And even if life is financially bleak for himself and for his niece's family, the bike is one thing that can maybe give her a little bit of happiness through these hard times, or maybe these perpetually hard times. And as for the part where the dad says that the bike is a distraction, that is very weird. I mean, the bike is exercise. The bike is being able to go around and explore. The bike is a lot of things that is good for a kid to have. So I don't know exactly what the bike is distracting her from, but the saddest part of this whole thing is just that the daughter is trying to tell the mom that it's okay. She doesn't want the bike if her dad doesn't want her to have the bike. That was the saddest part of this whole thing. But let me know what you would do if you're in this situation. And is the OP a jerk or not a jerk for getting the bike back in the way that she got it?